Welcome to the Fueling Fire podcast, the first and best nutrition podcast for first responders. We bring in the wellness experts who know the fire service, but can break down the science so that you don't have to. This podcast will help you eat better when you don't have time, money, or energy. I'm Megan Lautz, a civilian dietitian obsessed with helping firefighters boost energy and lose body fat while on shift work without the stress. Let's get into the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here for the first Fueling Fire podcast. My name's Megan, and I'm a registered dietitian specializing in first responders. If you're not familiar with me, I have over 8 years of experience working with firefighters and first responders to helping them eat better. And maybe you're coming here from Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, and I'm so excited to have you so that we can finally have the conversations that we need to improve the nutrition or eating habits of the fire service. I can't wait to talk to you and all of the guests that we have to really make a shift with these practical, realistic strategies that you can take and use on shift tomorrow or today if you're listening while you are here and on shift. I really want to listen and tailor this podcast to you. So if you have questions, if you have topics that you really want to delve into, I am happy to do so. Please leave a comment on wherever you're listening or shoot me a message on Instagram at rescue.rd. So let's lay out what this podcast is for. So this podcast is designed for the firefighter who is just struggling, not knowing what to eat and when on shift, off shift, to perform well on the fireground, at home with their family when they're taking care of their kids. This is also for the firefighters struggling with their energy levels, right? Maybe you're overdoing caffeine. You don't really know how to eat so that you can actually feel better and actually be present when you're on shift, but then also when you're at home with your family and your kids. So this is also for the firefighters struggling to hydrate well and actually feel good when they do leave trainings and drills and general shifts, especially in the summer, and they don't want to feel hungover and cranky and tired when they finally get home. So here's what you can expect from this podcast. We are going to be diving into the science behind nutrition, fitness, sleep, general wellness, and then also tying that into what the fire service really is. How do I eat when I'm tired and cranky, right? How can I apply this on shift today or the next shift that I have? And really the way we're going to do this is through one solo episode per month. So the solo episode will be about 15 minutes with me, just kind of riffing on a topic. If you know me, you know my nutrition tangents. I just kind of tend to go on a tangent, talking about case studies and things that have worked for the firefighters that I work with on a daily basis, working full-time for a department of over 1,600 firefighters. And then we'll also have a longer episode, about 30 to 40 minutes with a guest. And this guest will be a wellness pro or a firefighter who really understands both the importance of science and general nutrition tips, fitness tips, whatever that expert's in, and they also know how to apply it to the fire service. So this is going to be very applicable and easy for you to use on your next shift. But today, other than just kind of going over the ground rules, what this podcast is going to be about, we are going to talk about 3 nutrition shifts that can change your department, okay? And that first shift actually starts with you, right? You have to be the change in your department to see improvements long-term, right? For yourself and for your shift mates. And this doesn't mean that you have to be the pure fitness trainer or that you have to be the, most muscular guy at the station, right? This can be even if you haven't been doing so well with your nutrition yourself. Like you're the guy who tends to overeat, right? You're the guy they make fun of for doing too big of portions, too many energies, too much of, the not so good things, right? And that's a hard shift to make, right? Because you get teased for it when you do make changes. But often those are the most inspiring changes of the firefighter who was really struggling from a food perspective, and then they finally made some shifts. And that inspires tons of other firefighters to do the same. So, regardless of what your starting point is from a nutrition perspective or a health perspective, when you're listening to this podcast, you can really inspire other firefighters to make a change. The other place that I see this work well with is firefighters who are the shift chef. If you are the person who typically cooks for your station, you're in charge of the dinners. You're in charge of the lunches sometimes too, right? So if you're making better choices, that actually directly impacts the people you're working with. Now, it's a tricky conversation, if they're used to the brats and tots vibes, that to say, hey, we're actually going to make some better choices here. Or at the very least, I'm going to have a little bit of a budget so that I can have a good side salad available for you guys. And while the first time they might pick around it, typically we do see shifts start to make a change. And a lot of people are really willing to make some changes now. Especially when this releases, it's going to be the beginning of the year. This is the time where people are interested in trying something new and feeling better, right? So they don't feel as bogged down as they do when they're all plump from the holidays, right? So this is the time to make those considerations. If your shift or your department has overtime traditions, and what I mean by overtime traditions is I've worked with departments where if they work 24 hours and then they're held over or they're purposely working overtime, they'll pick up apples or typically it's donuts, right? Or Entenmann's or some sort of treat for the shift because they're working overtime that day. And what I challenge you to do, which might be hard, is to bring a bag of apples, some Kind bars, some nuts and seeds, clementines, a veggie tray, the salad for dinner that night. I challenge you to bring a healthier option, typically something that's maybe a plant, right? A produce, a fruit or a vegetable, because those are the biggest gaps in firefighter diets, right? I challenge you to bring that as your overtime contribution. And listen, the biggest kickback I get with that is, well, Megan, I don't want to be the guy who's going to get made fun of for that. They're going to make fun of you for something. Let's just be honest. If they're going to make fun of you for something, is that really the worst thing? Typically it's not. And of course, if that's not your vibe, no worries. Maybe just focus on what you need to change. Do you need to focus on more fruits and veggies? Do you need to kind of pay attention to how many plates of dinner you're going for? Do you need to have better snacks for yourself? It's okay to start with yourself and not have to pay attention to too much to what everybody else is doing. So that's our first tip, starting with you as the change. Now, the second tip is to make sure that if you are a chief, a safety officer, a company officer, that if you are in charge of providing certain nutrition-related products, aka hydration products, or the snacks for conferences, that you're making better choices there as well. So let's start with conferences. I don't know if you've ever been to a health and wellness or even a regular firefighter conference, and like all of the snacks are just like donuts and cakes and treats. I went to a union conference several years ago where like one of the main parties was just like essentially all carnival food. Like it wasn't a carnival party. It was just like, that's what it was. It was like corn dogs and donuts and like every treat, ice cream bar, like you could think of was there. Right. And all the firefighters were coming up to me like, Megan, look what we have. And listen, I'm not opposed to that. Like, I'm not saying that you can never have a corn dog again. I'm not a monster, but if you're especially leading a health and wellness conference or you're a health and wellness meeting, like I think it starts with having at least maybe 60, 80% of the options that are available on that table for snacks to be a better option, right? That can be a bowl of fruit, whole grain, like if you can do some sort of whole grain toast, whole grain bagels, that kind of thing. Maybe some protein shakes, right? I know that sounds weird, but like firefighters love that, right? I also love whenever I'm doing some sort of conference or workshop or thing where I'm teaching and there's going to be snacks, it's a longer day. I like to put out some healthier go bag things so firefighters can actually try them during that session. So applesauce pouches, fruit cups and juice, which again sounds weird, but they do like it. That's It bars. So that's It bars are little dried fruit bars that's just mashed into a bar that's more convenient and lasts for like 6 months or more in a go bag. And you can get those at Costco or a regular grocery store. Like I said, the protein shakes, the protein bars, Fig bars, Cliff bars, RX bars, having some options that firefighters can try that are better, so that, they do feel like that if it is a health and wellness conference or a health and wellness meeting, that you're actually consistent with that messaging, right? Chiefs and wellness pros, are your first responders struggling with nutrition because they just can't figure out how to apply it on shift work? Are they showing up to shift underhydrated and over-caffeinated? Do they struggle with body composition, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood glucose, but don't know how to make the changes on shift that will actually move the needle? Then the Fueling Fire workshop is for you. These 4 to 6 hour workshops are designed for peer fitness trainers, company officers, academy instructors, or just general first responders who are looking to learn more about nutrition that they can apply immediately that day at the workshop. The Fueling Fire workshop provides practical strategies for packing a go bag, hydrating on the fire ground, preventing nutrition-related injuries in recruits, aka making sure they eat enough so that they don't pass out during PT. The Fueling Fire workshop is instructed by yours truly, Megan Lautz, a dietitian that has a proven 3-step framework to overhaul the basics, aka Nutrition 101, but in a way that you've never seen it done before for the fire service. The second part of the framework is igniting optimal performance. How do I hydrate? How do I pack a go bag? How do I optimize my energy levels on the fire ground realistically? The third step in the framework is igniting lifestyle changes. How do I eat healthier with fast food? What can I make for dinner? How do I change the environment at the station? Practical strategies that can help your first responders eat better themselves and promote long-term changes in your overall department. Plus, if you book by February 28th, you get the Quick Bites videos for free. This is a $1,300 value that extends or prolongs the life of the Fueling Fire workshop. These are 12 10-minute videos that you can add into your learning management software, aka Target Solutions, with quick tips on how first responders can eat healthier on shift that day. Go to rescuerd.com to book a discovery call today. And another area where we're paying attention to these products is rehab. So whether it's you have a canteen unit or whatever your rehab unit, that unit that brings the snacks to the larger alarms, right? And here's the thing. The stuff that we bring to those larger alarms, the counterintuitive piece here is that they are not always the healthiest. And what that means is what is healthy in your day-to-day, the 90% of the time, is potentially not performance enhancing on the fire ground. And what that means is that sugar and sodium are going to be essential for continuing performance when you're doing something high intensity, right? When you're stuck for an hour or two on overhaul, right? Because fat, fiber, and protein, while that's important for our health in our day-to-day, slow digestion. So if digestion is slowed, fuel delivery is slowed. So what you provide on the canteen, like your sports drink, the sugar, the ORS products or the electrolyte products with sugar, those actually can be performance enhancing. Now, am I claiming that you should be guzzling Gatorade while sitting in the day room watching football? No, timing is really important here. The other thing about sugar, specifically in high intensity or fireground scenarios, is that you want to include that in your electrolyte products. I have had countless chiefs call me this year and say, hey, Megan, I've got the healthiest electrolyte product, right? It's sugar-free, tons of electrolytes, and it's perfect for my firefighters. And while that product can work, the sugar-free electrolyte products can work, they are not as effective as a product that has 10 to 15 grams of sugar in them based on the current level of evidence right now. And the reason for that is that if you have a little bit of sugar or a little bit of a glucose available, you gain access to additional point on the cell to help rehydrate. And that point is called the transporter is the sodium glucose co-transporter, which requires glucose to bind, then sodium can bind and water follows. So not only do you get passive diffusion across the cell from just more sodium, right, from the electrolyte product, you also gain access to get more sodium and more fluid into the cell faster when you have sugar available. So the products that you are looking for on safety officer buggies, rehab units for your recruits for their rehydration or their hydration stations are going to be oral rehydration solutions or ORS products, which were developed for the cholera epidemic to they are the equivalent to IV fluids for mild to moderate dehydration. And starting a line on someone, it's paperwork at the minimum, right? You don't have time for that. So when you have a product like an ORS product, it can actually prevent or reduce the use of IV fluids if someone is compromised. So these products have double the sodium, about 600 to 800 milligrams of sodium, and half the sugar of sports drink. And they, again, are as effective as IV fluids. So you're looking at a drip drop, liquid IV, or fluid tactical ORS. Those are the three products that I like to recommend. Now, granted, I have done some speaking for drip drop, but these are specific products that I know we have evidence behind them that they work well for the fire service, and they help speed rehydration. Unfortunately, I don't have the evidence for the sugar-free products at this time that they are going to be as effective as products that contain sugar. So while if you like Element, you like Fire Salt, those sugar-free options, continue using them. But if you are in charge of purchasing, we want to go based off the evidence, which recommends a ORS product like Drip Drop, Liquid IV, or Fluid Tactical. So be the change. Provide evidence-based products at rehab or healthier options at conferences. And then our final consideration is to bring in a subject matter expert to your county. This is a message specifically to your chiefs or your health and wellness leads. If your department's been struggling with nutrition and you've brought in different professionals and all they've said is, well, just eat chicken and broccoli. That's what you need to do. Only eat whole foods. Well, whole foods go bad in my fridge when I get held over. Or just go vegan, just go vegetarian. And your department, that is not the vibe. That's not the right fit, right? So bringing in a subject matter expert in nutrition, sleep, wellness can really make a difference. And for me, I've been developing a product specifically or a workshop specific for firefighters and police officers. And this is the Fueling Fire workshop. And this workshop is intended to create force multipliers in your department. So it's not just me coming in and saying, eat your vegetables for 4 to 6 hours. It's me coming in and teaching specific nutrition strategies that actually make change in your department. And the way it makes change in your department is by teaching your peer fitness trainers, your company officers, your chiefs, how to make change not only in themselves, but also make change in their colleagues, the other first responders, their shift mates, right? And the way this works is that peer fitness trainers leadership, you see a ton of mixed messaging. That guy on TikTok told me I should just be downing Celtic sea salt, right? I should only eat whole foods, right? All of these things may work in one way, but they're not tailored to the fire service. It's not telling me what I should eat at lineup. It's not telling me what I should pack in a go bag, what type of hydration product I should keep on hand for high intensity sweaty calls. So that the Fueling Fire workshop has a specific 3-step framework to show your force multipliers how to make change in your department when maybe you don't have a dietitian there full time available to make that difference for you. So these workshops, we go through case studies to help you transition from the textbook to actually make a difference in your firefighters with practical strategies that actually work on shift through countless coaching sessions that I have done over the past 8 years, over hundreds, if not thousands of firefighters, hundreds of station visits, and hundreds of conferences, talking to firefighters on how to make actual change. So the Fueling Fire workshops are, I do them throughout the year. They can be in person or virtual. And I am running a special that is a $1,300 value. And if you book a Fueling Fire workshop by February 28th, 2025, you will get Quick Bites, which is 12 10-minute nutrition videos that can be put into Target Solutions for free. And these videos, not only do your peer fitness trainers have access to them, but this is for the rest of your department to prolong the change that the workshop created, right? So they are reminded each month through Target Solutions, Vector Solutions, or whatever your learning management software is to actually continue making change. And it talks about hot topics like intermittent fasting, caffeine, energy drink usage, how do I hydrate on the fireground, cancer risk reduction, cardiovascular disease reduction, all of those hot topics. So that is usually a $1,300 value that I am giving for free for anyone who books a workshop prior to February 28th, 2025. So to summarize, if you are looking to make nutrition changes in your department in 2025, we are going to focus on being the change ourselves, whether it's internally and making our own small changes or inspiring change in other firefighters. We are going to put evidence-based products in our rehab or canteen units to promote performance, and then have healthier options if we are doing health and wellness conferences, meetings, and those kinds of things. And then we're going to consider bringing in an external subject matter expert in the fire service, in wellness, so that we can actually see change in our department, but in a way that actually works for the fire service. So if you liked this podcast, please leave a star review, whatever star you like, on whatever platform you're listening to, or shoot a like on Facebook and hit subscribe. We are going to have 2 more podcasts broadcasted out with this. So please listen to those. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email, megan@rescuerd.com, or go to rescuerd.com for a free recipe book. This is $5 to $6 a head, shifts of 6, 10, and 14, half a pound of protein per person. This is free 20-some recipes that you can put into practice right now. If you join the email list for tips, rescuerd.com. And if you have any questions, you want to bring out that workshop, you can apply on the website as well, rescuerd.com. I hope you enjoyed this episode and enjoy and have a safe and healthy shift. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Fueling Fire. If you enjoyed the episode, please share on social media and don't forget to tag @rescue.rd and leave us a rating on whatever platform you're listening to, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, so that we can continue sharing nutrition information that makes sense for the fire service. Thank you so much for listening and have a safe and healthy shift.